I stayed home because my toilet was leaking, got it fixed, and I had the day off, so I figured let's do a little project. I got this beautiful case in the mail yesterday, and it's got 140 millimeter fans. These things are massive. There's a hand for scale. It's got fan. You could put a fan. Got a fan. There's another fan. It's decked out with some fans. The top, somebody put a random switch in. On the back, looks like somebody got it wet and returned it to Radio Shack back in the day. It's not hooked up to anything. I don't know. If I take it out, there'll be a hole there. Let's leave it. Drive bays look like this. This is pretty cool, I think. Took a toothbrush to it, and I tossed the toothbrush because I'm not going to brush my teeth with that afterwards. This is the old computer that I got for $8. And it has an HD DVD ROM drive in it. We're gonna try to swap that entire thing, minus this part, because that is an IR blaster, and I don't have the driver for the beanbag emulation device. So we're not gonna use that. I put XP MCE on this thing. I didn't have all of the drivers, and to try to get most of them without having to find them, this was still in there, and I did some data forensics stuff and got that soldered. It looks like somebody had busted it off, but never taken it out of the old computer itself. It was just sitting there. So I hooked that up and tried to get some drivers off of it, but it's just totally shot. I don't know what they did. They fried it. And also I have grommets from the toilet stuff under my nails. We'll trim those later. Make sure to have these everywhere on your floor. Inside the older computer that we are harvesting basically everything from, there's some bizarre stuff in here. Here's the HD DVD ROM drive, and it looks like it was parallel ATA down there, and they put some sort of deal to make it serial on the back. This one on the top is a light scribe drive that gets jammed all the time. I may or may not fix that. I got a bunch of these sitting around, so probably just put a new one in there. And to the front port, the front panel, which has all these doohickeys for your VGA inputs and captures and whatnot, actually goes to a WinNT hoppage card right there. So that's kind of cool, and there is the back of that. Although interesting, it doesn't have a yellow video input on the back, which is a little odd, but the front does. So I'm going to try to keep that and mount it internally somehow. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it with this thing, but we'll get it to work. Never going to use that. Not going to use this. We're going to take the modem out because this is not ever going online. The power supply I'm going to use for now, I may swap that in the future, but it already has everything I need for this system, and half of it's Molex and some of it's serial ATA, so it's already got what we need. Down there is a blue VGA port. This is pretty funny. Do not remove. Not now, not ever. Okay, then. I guess I will not. Be quiet. The old modem is tested to comply with FCC standards for home or office use. It has been complying with a lot of dust throughout the years. If anyone is interested, this is the front panel of the old PC, the M9000 that I'm taking it off of. I'll probably transfer that in this, and Budcat can just stay in there. Hey, it's Kirby. Let's go ahead and get the hard drives out. This thing is a little weird. You got to undo this and then push way down there on that little tab, and then it slides up and slides out, and kind of a unnecessary thing to do. These are the shortest SATA cables ever. The primary is to SATA 0, so we'll have to remember that. The other one doesn't matter. It's just got some random driver pre-installation files on it. That can go pretty much wherever. The back popped out. We're never going to use that. And it goes to front USB number 6 and number 5. That is a lot of front USB. And the other one goes to absolutely nothing. This was not hooked up at all. The front audio down there, I did test, and that does sense these two. So it's likely HD audio and not the AC97. I will get that on the new case because the new one does have that, and I want that up front because the video capture on this is a little odd. When you do it, the video obviously goes through there, but the audio, you don't actually use either of these inputs. You have to pop it in here, then you get your audio that way. It's a little bizarre, but that's the way the program works, and it works fine. It doesn't tell you that when you start the program up or in any of the documentations. So I had to figure that out. It was a headache. This is the Hoppage Win TV PCI Express 1, and we are going to dust this off at some point because it is sinfully dirty. Since this goes to that dock that we're never going to use in the future and just don't have a need for, we will just not install that, and we're going to use this for the 1300 fans that came with the new one. SPDIF down there out that didn't go to anything either, so we're just not going to use that, I suppose. Here is the video card that is in it. This is an amazing little thing. It's got VGA, HDMI, and DVI-I, and it is passive cooling. There's no fan on this thing, but it does not get terribly hot. Here is the model number if you want to check it out. It's the EN210 silent, blibbity blobbity, there's all of it, pause it if you need it. There are the hard drives out. That was not fun to take out. You had to push this down and pry. It was stuck. I didn't want to come out. Right next to when it did come out is the floppy connection. I am really excited about that because I have a floppy and we're going to see if that thing will work in here. Right here is that bay that has a USB connection and it goes to part of that front USB number 2. This thing has an insane amount of front USB ports, which is handy, I suppose, but really who needs 6 of them? This thing is interesting, but I cannot get that to work. So all these ports go to a front USB right there, and the IR blaster runs all the way down and through here and goes to this card right here. And that's the one in the system that's labeled beanbag emulation device. I'm not going to throw this away. I'm going to save this and hopefully in the future I can get it to work. It won't go in the standard slot. Those are quite a bit bigger, and that is not bigger, that is small. And it's mounted into its own little custom dealio there. I'm going to save it and see if someday maybe I can get that to work. Today is not that day. There is the HP part number, and I keep saying beanbag emulation device, and if you don't believe me, look that up. And it does exist. This is a real thing. And if anybody can find me the drivers for this, I will buy you several cups of coffee and a donut or some equivalent of 15 bucks. I don't know. I'll buy you something because that'll make me super happy. Make sure to save those screws because you never know when you're not going to need them. I got the 10 by 10 plus 4, I guess. And it is a 24 out. And then the 4-pin down there out. And this is a cool little Wi-Fi card that was sitting right there, and I'm never going to use this again. I might save it or sell it or give it away. Who knows? It'll be a raffle prize or maybe an Easter present. And last is the little case fan, and this one comes with a case fan right there, which is a little bit bigger. I'll just plug that in, obviously, because it's attached to the case, and it is, in fact, a case fan. Now is a great time to talk about my sponsor, and that is the pizza in my fridge. Here's the pizza in my fridge, and it supports me by giving me nutrients and things I need, like cashews, because everybody knows you need cashews on pizza. I've got to show this. This is one of the more bizarre things I've seen on PCs, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff. I actually took Molex in the back, and there's a serial ATA adapter to the parallel, or IDE, and then it had the small power like you would find on a floppy disk drive, and well, I'm not going to set that there, that will fall, and then I'll be out an HD DVD ROM drive. So much crap. This was the adapter that was plugged into it. This gave a little board power right here with all its blurriness and my black thumbnail still, and this is the Molex that actually plugged into the drive itself. That's just bizarre to me. It's cool. If anybody wants to see the model number, there is the Toshiba number, which is the vendor model number, and the HP part number. Nothing special about the LightScribe drive other than it's a LightScribe drive, which is kind of cool, but they're a dime a dozen now. You can find them pretty much anywhere on eBay for super cheap. Time to unscrew the board. And this thing has a lot going on in the back. As you can see down there, there are things that go into every other thing. Just look at that. That's a lot of thing. On the back of the card reader, we have a little bit of moisture damage, which is fine, but there's also a button for backing that thing up. Let's take this off and go down into the dungeon, spray it out, and possibly put some new thermal paste on the processor. It turns out that I'm actually going to have to take this off to get the board out because I don't want to crack anything. This is in there pretty tight. God, please don't smite me. I got distracted. Don't ever take your power supply apart, not even a little bit, to do this and clean it up, because then you can void your finger's warranty if you shock yourself. As good Lord Odin would have it, it actually fit. Tonight before I go to bed, I will give it a kiss. EATX, ATX, and mini micromanagement ATX. Here we are in the dungeon, and there's some dustiness on here, so we're just going to brush that off. Pretend to be extra careful. Dusty, dusty. And I didn't take the RAM off or the SPDIF cable because I like to live dangerously. I'll clean the fan later, but I'm going to take the heatsink off and get some new thermal paste on there. There it is, and it is definitely crusty and very dry, some old stuff. I didn't film me taking that off because I definitely didn't forget to press a button. I'll spray it off, not on top of that. There's the chip all nice and clean. I did this off camera because if you ask 3 different people what you should use to get that off, you're gonna get 5 different answers. So whatever you think I should have used, I used that. It is notched on both sides, so you really have to try to get this in wrong. Sit it in there ever so gently and latch that back down. Ta-da, there we have it. We're gonna get the thermal paste on both of these, or well, just the processor, I guess, and then we will put the heatsink back on. Oh, it's dusty. I'm just gonna go with the thermal paste on there because I feel like it. I'm doing this in a way that everyone will yell at me. What a sloppy mess. I went with the MX4 because that's what I have. There we go. That's good enough for whoever the new Pope is going to be, and we will get that back on. Wonderful stuff. Let's go put this board into the new case and forget about all the mess I've made and leave that for later. No idea what is going on here, but the standoffs on this are horrible. Minus 200 for Gryffindor. I don't know what is going on. Oh, I gotta light this guy out. Well, I just spent forever screwing around with these. It turns out that the one I took it from doesn't actually have the standoffs. That's actually part of the case is the standoff. So the screws were going into what would be right here, which is the bottom of the standoffs, which you can see right there now that's not blurry. And they are different screws than the ones that are in the bottom. So if you take a bottom of this and try to screw it in the top, it will not fit. It turns out it's actually a different thread. So I broke it, that snapped off. Luckily there was a billion extras from whoever had this before. Thank you to them. And we're gonna get it on properly now. And that was a big waste of time and a headache. And I said a couple curse words. Got all 800 of them on and got the power supply onto the board. These up here were very tight, so I pulled them out to get a little bit of slack on them to kind of even out how much everything's pulling on them. I wouldn't be surprised if that just pulls out in the future. It's not super tight, but that's a tight one. I noticed most of the fans are just the 3 pins, which is the system fan connector, which there only is one of. So we're gonna just connect it to the bottom one, and that, of course, is slightly too short. So we're gonna have to flip that around. Well, it's been about a week, and I have a lot more stuff in here. The front looks like that. I had some issues with getting the power to everything, and I got some adapters from Amazon, and they finally came, and as you can see, I did not trim my nails yet, but that will come in due time. Everything works except only one of these drives will work at a time because of this setup. So I have that one not operational right now because I have some externals for that. For the 5 1/4, I don't, so that's the one that is in operation right now. There's a video capture card in there, and I routed that to the front. I cut these, I cut some holes in there and put those. These were keystones that I popped out of there and then did a bunch of routing in there, so those all fished to the back. HD DVD drive does work just fine, and then most of this works. The USB 3 doesn't work because the board doesn't have that, and I don't have a card with that in there right now. I really don't need it, and I haven't plugged that in yet, nor the eSATA. So the USB up here does work, USB 2. The 3s are simply not plugged in, but I will open it back up and show you what I got going in there. Here it is in all its glory. For anybody that has watched to this point, thank you. And I'm sorry to have jumped this far ahead. I had some stuff I had to do. I forgot about doing this, and then I had to order some cables, some power adapters, and I got everything in. I forgot to record, blah, blah, blah. This is what it looks like. It is a mess, but everything seems to work just fine. Let's turn the light off and get this thing going. There we have those fans. And it does get pretty cool in there. There is the red power light, and the blue one is the hard disk drive. And this is supposed to light up. I haven't looked into why it doesn't, but that is not lighting up. The camera's actually picking up better than I can see with my eyes. I thought I was gonna have to replace some of these fans. They were noisy for a bit. I was about to take them off, and then they just got quiet. So maybe there's dust in the bearings, and now the dust is gone. I don't know, but so let's see what is on the computer. I just tried to power it on, and I had all sorts of issues, so I had to fix that and figure out what was going on with it. The CMOS battery died, and it reverted everything back to being RAID. And I'm not doing RAID with this, so nothing would boot. It would just hang. So I put it in IDE, and everything's working just fine now. So we will go ahead and turn that on. Sorry, I don't have a screen cap for this or any sort of way to capture this as I would like to, so I'm just going to hold my camera right here. Oh, hello. A dirty, dirty screen. It does take a little while to boot, but then runs pretty quickly. There we have it. And here's what we're working with. It's an Intel Core 2 Quad Q6600, and I've got 4 gigs of RAM installed. There is the wonderful video card. I know somebody's going to ask, well, what about this driver or that driver? No, they're all installed. Everything on this is working just fine. And I know there's going to be questions with all of this, so I will go over it from top to bottom. First, we're going to start off with the drive. This setup will only read one or the other, and I have to set it with the pin in the back. The motherboard sets to the 144, which should only read this, but because of the way this itself is set up, the drive itself, I can get it to read one or the other, but not both. So I've got it set to this, and we'll put a disk in and see if it reads, which I do not think it will. Gremlins 2, the new batch. We'll get that in. Double click it, and there we go. It is reading, or trying to, and it says it is not formatted. I tried this disk about 5 years ago, and it did work at that point, but this thing is just old. It's not working right now. So the drive does work. The disk has no more data on it. I might just get archive.org image of it and pop the actual image back on there. So the drive itself does work. And these right here go to a cable that I put in there, or rather 3 cables that are routed to what used to be on the old PC M9000, and that is routing into the back of the capture card back there. I just wanted this for easier access. Cleaner to look at, it's easier to use than having to reach around back all the time. What I use is VidCap 32. Click that, and it doesn't show anything right away. I've got it hooked up to this, so it is spitting signal out to here, and I go to video source. Got a couple on there, composite there, click apply. That should, yep, there we go. So that is showing it. And it's pretty choppy. When you record on screen cap into there, you can set the bitrate of the audio. Video, you can do whatever frames per second you want. I like that kind of old look, so I had it set to 15, I believe it is. The weird thing about the audio with this is I can't get it to work on here at all. I've got to actually plug it into the microphone, which is fine. I've got some adapters. A little weird, but having that up front is nice. So get the video in there, the audio right there, and it's cool that the screen cap actually does work on this old thing. I like that a lot. I might do some video projects in the future with that. This, of course, is an HD DVD drive. I've got Batman Begins in there. We'll pop it out, press close, and it will pop up on there. Now, I've had various programs being able to rip these things. I'm not going to show those, but what I really wanted was it to actually show the files, and that took forever to get working. I had to get a Toshiba, I think it was like 2.5 driver for UDF, and I don't know if it's because the Toshiba drive works on this and it is a Toshiba, or it just needed that for the system. I don't know, but as you can see, it actually does show up now. Batman Begins HD DVD. So if we click OK, it will then show us the files on the disk itself. I don't actually have a player to play them natively. I would have to rip them and then play them, which is whatever. The next step is to try to get something that will actually play this, but anything that does, I can't find anywhere online. So I'm gonna have to eBay some old discs or archive.org. I am not sure, but that drive does work. So everything on this does work. There's a little bit of workarounds with like the audio in here having to go there, but pretty much everything works that I want to. Just don't have a card for the USB 3, and this does nothing. It was not hook up to anything, and I'm not gonna take it out because then there'd be just a gap there. So a switch for nothing. I'm gonna say goodbye at this point. This was a really fun project. It's basically my dream PC from, I don't know, like 2006 or something. I don't know. This case was pretty cool. It looks like a transformer. This is a fantastic project. I loved doing this. This is great. Thank you for watching if you did. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer them if I can. Have a great day. I hope this inspired you to go make your own computer with random stuff. Have a good one.